Okay. But yeah, I was asked a question as to like kind of like how I came to being trans. Like how I had my trans awakening, if that makes sense. I don't know how many of you are really interested in that, but yeah. Wow, this one is only missing one. It's a starter. Ugh. But yeah. So, as I've stated before, my from me coming out and me like actually for me coming out and me like starting transitioning, it was a very short amount of time. Like extremely short. Like painfully short. I probably should have given it more time, per se. Maybe? I don't know. The only thing that is true about it, though, is before I started streaming, I thought I was effeminate. I experimented and stuff like that to some regard. When I started streaming, however, I didn't really do anything. I tried staying masculine. That's why, like, if you go to any of the, like, first videos that I ever, like, put out, like, the first video on my channel, it's me talking in a deeper voice. But the thing is that, like, it's difficult to actually say whether or not you are trans just at a first glance. Mainly just because you don't start putting like 2 and 2 together, typically. Until, like, you are already, like, kind of, like, considering it. There's a lot of things that are kind of like, even Panda can possibly even like confirm what I mean by this. Either you know from the very beginning or you just don't know, and you go so long not knowing. You're just like really just like, huh, I'm different, but I'm probably not that different. I don't know why people say that I am. And then when you start looking into things more and you start realizing, oh, these mannerisms aren't normal for somebody who's cisgender, I wonder why that is. And you kind of go through things, you go about things in a particular way. You start to try and, like, figure yourself out in some regard. From childhood, or it takes years of trying to fit in, trying different styles, aesthetics, etc., until someone says something that makes you go, oh, wrong gender? Yeah, exactly. And, like, it's... I genuinely was, like, begging at a point. Like, I kept on, like, asking, like, hey, do you think I'm an egg? And people were just trying to be kind and, like, saying, maybe not. But it's... like, I was asking people if they thought I was an egg. And even then, I didn't really get a straight answer. I was just always extremely confused in that regard. And didn't know at all what to think, per se. I don't know. But when I started transitioning, I started off relatively slow, like just experimenting. So I fully feel it. I hyper-feminized for a hot minute because I thought I was doing it wrong. Yeah. I never hyper masculinized. That was never a thing for me. I tried being a pretty boy, effectively. That was effectively like my idea. Like I was like, oh, I guess I would just try and be a pretty boy, I suppose. Maybe that's what I need to do. But even then, that didn't really end up working fully. So it was weird. Like there are pictures in my dad's house, like in my family's house, where I'm just wearing like a watch with rings. Like honestly, I could have been wearing piercings at the time. Just like short but kempt hair. Always smirking and stuff like that. Like I tried being a pretty boy. And it didn't really feel right. Like I would kind of just like wear typical like tomboy clothing, which is interesting because I was a guy, but I would wear like a baggy shirt with like basically the typical things that like tomboys would wear. And when I was in middle school and stuff like that, I always understood that I had a more effeminate voice. Sometimes trans folks have to experiment to figure out what exactly they're feeling. Lots of us don't realize we're trans until we have that clarifying epiphany. Yeah. I just needed somebody to like second that I might be trans to give me the push. That's basically all I needed. But like when I was a kid and my mother was still alive, I would wear her wigs, I would wear her heels, her high heels and stuff like that. I didn't really think of very much anything of it at the time, to be honest. But I did it. And in middle school, I always thought that I sounded effeminate. And come high school, I tried to deepen my voice. Which is why it's difficult for me to go back to a deep voice, because that wasn't my natural voice to begin with. But yeah. I needed several people telling me I look like a cute emo boy every time I cut my hair for me to start experimenting with different pronouns and eventually names, that it finally felt right. Yeah. I got lucky that my name naturally is gender neutral. So I can just say, yeah, call me Max. Which is funny because people when I was younger would kind of like joking call me Maxine. So I guess it was accurate. I suppose so. I suppose it was slightly accurate. That's interesting. Bramblin and Bramblegas on the same stream. Stream. Bum. It was foreshadowing. I suppose so. But yeah, like a lot of these identities, like me realizing about a lot of these things didn't actually start like putting two and two together until I started transitioning. That's like the main thing. Like a lot of this actually didn't start like formulating until I started transitioning, if that makes sense. At least to me, you did? Yeah. But yeah, as Panda said, just experiment. If you have any inkling, just experiment. Thought it made sense. Okay, cool. Cool. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 doop. Dum doop 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 doop. Ba 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 ba. Weep ba 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 ba. Beep ba beep ba. This is gonna take forever. I always say I'll try anything twice. Unless it's cyanide or mercury.